Welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science YouTube channel, your encyclopedia for the college basketball season and beyond. Florida is the 2025 national champions. How about that? How about Walter Clayton Jr., Todd Golden? Walter Clayton Jr., the most outstanding player of the Final Four. Todd Golden, a young and rising star in the coaching world. An up and down season for Florida, not in the basketball department, just with, the whole scandal that started off the season. Didn't know what would really lead to this, what would happen to this Florida team, and they ended up being the best team in college basketball and winning the national championship. So we're going to talk about that. Talk a little bit about the Final Four, the heartbreak for Houston, also some heartbreak for Duke. Tough one there. And then we will talk about the final AP poll and KenPom rankings to finish the season, where your team might have ended up. And then we are going to do our first ever Bracket Science Awards. We're going to do the first, our first team All-Americans, I guess. Not surprising at all. In fact, just we'll spoil it right now. We will talk about the players a little bit, but it's just the exact same as the All-American teams because I thought they did a good job this year. And we'll talk about our player of the year, our coach of the year. Once again, just really no hot takes. So that's going to be the outline of today's show. We haven't talked since actually even the Final Four games because I recorded a podcast. I did make a recording. The sound didn't work for some reason, so I planned to re-record that night, and then unfortunately I got sick for a while, so here we are, a couple days late, but we'll talk about all these things that went on, and then just some housekeeping stuff, what's going to happen. Today is Thursday. We're recording this about 10 o'clock a.m. On the East Coast. We're going to start talking transfer portal stuff. I have already been putting together a list. We're going to record it on Monday. We're just going to do the coaching carousel, everything you missed maybe. We are going to release our transfer portal rankings. Now, it's not going to be in terms of just best fit. It's just going to be best players available. So we'll talk about all that, probably top 50 or so. So, yeah, we're going to dive into that on Monday. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on those post notifications so you stay up to date on the college basketball world. And then follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. We won't be posting, obviously, as much, but we'll still be posting a lot. And we'll be trying to record every week, maybe sometimes just every other week once the transfer portal closes up. So, yeah, we're going to stay busy throughout the offseason. So it's as good a time as ever in the world to follow college basketball in the offseason because the transfer portal is just mad right now. So, but let's give some credit where credit's due to the Florida Gators, the 2025 national champions. Final score, Florida 65, Houston 63. Houston led 42-30 with 15 minutes left. And then Florida did to Houston what Houston did to Duke, came all the way back, got the job done. For a while, it just looked like Houston has to hang on. Florida was going to give them that push that we all expected they would. Could Houston hang on? They could not. Florida just looked like, the best team in the country, quite frankly. It was an ugly game, obviously 65-63. Not a pretty game. Walter Clayton Jr. did not have a great showing, only 11 points, really struggled from the field. He did have 7 assists and 5 rebounds, but this man pictured right here, Will Richard, when no one could make shots, Will Richard was making shots. He knocked down some big threes early in the game. He ended up leading Florida with 18 points. LJ Cryer for Houston was the guy, 19 points, the only player in double-digit scoring for Houston. Houston kind of struggled offensively, especially down the stretch. Man, heartbreak for Kelvin Sampson, heartbreak for Emmanuel Sharp, who couldn't get a shot off at the end of the game. But Florida, any team in the Final Four that was going to win the national championship deserved to win the national championship. And Florida, they won the conference tournament of the best conference, quite frankly, we've ever seen. Now they won the national championship. So good stuff. Florida back on top of the college basketball world. Todd Golden, at only 39 years old, is a national champion. Analytics guy. So we kind of, talked about it in the intro. Todd Golden was facing Title IX, whatever the word is. They had an investigation on Todd Golden early in the year, and it was a real concern whether Todd Golden was even going to be the coach of Florida this upcoming year. There were accusations, that was the word I was looking for, accusations that he was, stalking some students. They did do a Title IX investigation, and they came back with no proof that any of this happened. So that should be noted. But there was real concern for a while, but this Florida team just took off from the get-go. Started off the season 13-0, did not lose a non-conference game. They ended the season with the most wins. Now, I know that seems kind of obvious, but that doesn't happen all the time. with the most wins out of anyone in the entire country with 36. A tremendous season. Walter Clayton Jr., who is not pictured here, this is Will Richard. Walter Clayton Jr. did end up being the most outstanding player. I mean, he went off this NCAA tournament until this last game where, that Houston defense will do it to you. But Florida, your national champions. Let's move on and talk about the final AP poll where we'll talk about, maybe a little bit of the Final Four team. So quite frankly, I thought the AP poll did a pretty good job at the end of the season. They always do a pretty solid job at the end of the year, giving credit to, I can't stand the AP poll for most of the times, but the final AP poll always seems to be pretty good. Florida 1, Houston 2, no surprise. Duke 3, who lost to Houston in heartbreaking fashion, just really, unfortunately, choked the lead down the stretch. Missed some big free throws. Houston made some big shots. Emmanuel Sharp, I know he's going to get some backlash for not getting a shot off at the end there. I mean, it's just a spur of the moment thing where you go up and you're so eager to get a shot off, and Walter Clayton's flying at you. You try and pump fake, and it's just a little too late. But he had huge moments against Duke where he really showed up. Houston with a huge comeback on Duke. Auburn finishes at number 4. They were the best team all season long, getting that number 1 overall seed. Just didn't grow as much as Florida, Houston, and Duke all did. So Auburn still an absolutely tremendous season under Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl and Rick Pitino were the AP poll coaches, or this AP Associated Press Coaches of the Year. They tied for it, which was like the first time ever, I believe. But so Bruce Pearl, obviously a tremendous season. Auburn actually led by 8 at the half over Florida in the Final Four, but Florida stormed all the way back. Florida was just better, quite frankly, and end up winning the game. Tennessee finishes at number 5. Tremendous job for Rick Barnes this season. He's going to get to a Final Four. I know Tennessee fans are dying for it. I really believe he's going to get there. Unfortunately, this is the end for Zakai Ziegler. We'll miss covering him in college basketball. Another player I will miss covering, Mark Sears at Alabama. They finish at number 6 after getting, they got beat pretty badly by Duke, and it really looked like Duke they were the team to beat. They were the team to beat in the betting markets. They were minus 110 in the Final Four to win the national championship. They were minus money, and Houston just, showed their experience, showed Duke's lack of experience. So Alabama, another tremendous season. Michigan State goes from unranked in the preseason AP poll up to 7th. This is one of those, I had some I think I had a pretty good season of takes. I had some pretty good takes from the preseason. I did not have a good take on Michigan State. I was saying pretty much all season, I thought Michigan State was just one of the more overrated teams in the country. They proved me wrong. They were a really good basketball team. Ended up being 7th in the AP poll, ended up a 2 seed, made the Elite 8. They were tremendous all season long. That was a swing and a miss by me. Michigan State, great season there. Texas Tech, also a great season. They were a 3 seed. They ended up, they were unranked in the preseason AP poll, which was just ridiculous. Everyone even noted it. They're like, this is horrible. Texas Tech has a top 15 roster. They did. They got a top 15 coach. Great stuff there. They finish at number 8, and they got even better news. JT Toppin, their All-American, first team All-American, I should say, Big 12 Player of the Year, coming back for next year. That's going to be huge for Texas Tech. They're going to be in position to be in position once again. Maryland finishes in the top 10 at number 9. Derek Queen led. Kevin Willard obviously leaving Maryland to go to Villanova, so we'll see what's up for them next year, but a tremendous season for Maryland. Jacoby Gillespie and Rodney Rice already in the transfer portal, expecting Derek Queen to go to the NBA as well. So good season for Maryland. Good to see Maryland back in the top 10. Michigan and Dusty May goes from 8-24 to the top 10 of the final AP poll. How about that? Dusty May, tremendous coach, tremendous job, bright future. He will make a Final Four at Michigan unless he moves somewhere. I'm fairly confident in that. St. John's finishes at number 11. What could have been? They didn't even make the Sweet 16. Got beat by Arkansas and John Calipari. Obviously, it was a tremendous season for St. John's, winning the Big East regular season, winning the Big East tournament. Another bad take by myself. I thought they were the best 2 seed coming into the tournament. They did not. They ended up being where they finished as. All the 2 seeds made the Elite 8, except for St. John's, who didn't even make the Sweet 16. So still a great season by Rick Pitino, and St. John's back, on top of the Big East for the season. 12 ended up at final AP poll. Number 12 was Kentucky in the first year under Mark Pope, making the Sweet 16. How about that? With all the injuries they dealt with this year, it was a tremendous season for Kentucky to get all the way there. They got a bright future ahead of them. They're already just going crazy in the, Now, this might just be Big Blue Nation because they're so passionate, but every time I open Instagram or Twitter, it's like, yeah, Kentucky's going after this guy. And it's like, good. They should. They got all the money in the world. Go get whoever you can. Build a good roster. Kentucky going to be here to stay, as is BYU. How about a first year under Kevin Young? Tremendous job. They make the Sweet 16, 13th to finish the season, first year for a coach. Yeah, how about that? They're going to bring back Richie Saunders next year. They're bringing in AJ DeBanza, who actually just got passed as number one recruit by Darren Peterson, according to 247 Sports. I don't think I would have that. I would still have DeBanza. I think DeBanza's just he's. I mean, Darren Peterson's awesome too, but so is AJ DeBanza. I would still have DeBanza 1, Peterson 2, but yeah, BYU, they're going to be here to stay. They've got Kiba Kita coming back as well. Those big three: Saunders, DeBanza, Kita. That's going to be nasty next year. Watch out for BYU. So at number 14 was Purdue. Purdue, a lot of people thought they were going to fall off this year. They did not. They obviously weren't as good as last year losing Zach Edey, but they were still really good, and the future is incredibly bright, and they're going to be back next year. Next year, they got a tremendous roster. They're going to be really good. They're bringing back a lot of pieces. Purdue going to be here to stay for a while, especially under Matt Painter. He's awesome. Arizona finishes at 15th after starting the year 4-5, made the Sweet 16, gave Duke a run. Caleb Love went out with a bang, went off in that Sweet 16 game against Duke. The future is bright under Tommy Lloyd, another one of those just like Dusty May at Michigan. I think Tommy Lloyd is going to make a Final Four at Arizona. Not even really a hot take there at all. Wisconsin finishes at 16. Wisconsin had a tough draw in the NCAA tournament. They beat Montana in the first round. They were either going to have to face BYU, who was on fire and looks awesome, or VCU, who was also on a heater. Yeah, it was a tough draw for Wisconsin. They lose in the round of 32. They gotta get something going under Greg Gard in the NCAA tournament. They've been awesome in the regular season the past 2 years, but they got some work to do in March Madness. They got to break through a little bit here. 17, Iowa State ends up at 17. A season of what could have been, dealt with a ton of injuries. I was so optimistic about this team after, obviously after Maui, they gave Auburn a run, and it was, unfortunately just dealt with a lot of injuries. But Iowa State's going to be here to stay. They'll be good again next year. Number 18, Ole Miss. This is the one, kind of weird thing I have with the AP poll. I think Ole Miss should be ahead of Iowa State. Now, I know I'm the biggest believer here that head-to-head doesn't mean anything in most bracketology cases. But in this point, I thought Ole Miss should have been ahead of Iowa State in this one. Even probably Ole Miss ahead of Wisconsin. I think Ole Miss was hurt the most by rankings and in the final AP poll. So Ole Miss fans, I'm here with you. I think they should have been like 16th, but they end up at 18, a tremendous season under Chris Beard. They dominated North Carolina in the opening round, then beat Iowa State and moved to the Sweet 16. Good season there. Texas A&M ends up at 19 after losing to Michigan in the round of 32, is what it is. Buzz Williams moving on to Maryland. Number 20 was Arkansas. Arkansas ends the season. I mean, they weren't even going to make the tournament. It looked like for a very long time, like, yeah, this team's not going to make it. They ended up 20th in the final AP poll. How about that? Made the Sweet 16. Future might be bright under John Calipari. How about that? Louisville ends at 21. They did not win a game in March Madness. So I know they finished the season really hot, but 21 kind of feels a little bit high to me, but still a good season. Obviously, the future is going to be terrific under Pat Kelsey at Louisville. They'll probably be preseason at worst. I would say top 15 next year. I would guess probably preseason top 10 next year. He's already in the transfer portal gaining shooters. This team's going to be scary next year. Clemson finishes at 22, even after losing to McNeese in the first round. Yeah, I don't know about that ranking as well, but Gonzaga finishes 23, St. Mary's at 24. Two teams out of WCC who, made the round of 32, but didn't get anywhere past there. And then finally rounding out the top 25, Memphis. Yeah, Memphis ranked here instead of a lot of people thought Colorado State, when I posted this on the Instagram, that Colorado State would enter the rankings. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think they probably should have, because they're obviously going a lot of not just how they did in March Madness, but also how they did in the, leading up to March Madness. Like, for example, Louisville, for example, Clemson, they were blazing hot coming into March Madness, as was Colorado State, but Colorado State, quite frankly, should have made the Sweet 16 if it wasn't for a tremendous buzzer beater by the number 9 team here, Maryland. So, yeah, I see the argument there as well. But still, Memphis, I'm curious what Memphis fans are thinking. If you're a Memphis fan, let me know what you're thinking, because you were terrific all year and you just haven't broken through in March Madness. This team was like they were one of the more talented teams. Now I know they got a tough draw, but it was still a 12 seed draw. I don't know. I'm curious what Memphis fans are thinking, if they're real frustrated with Penny Hardaway, because they were really good. They had a really good season, but 5 seed losing in the first round after all the struggles they had been having. Like, Penny Hardaway was on the hot seat coming into this season, and then they had such a good year where that kind of went away, and then you lose first round. I'm curious what Memphis fans are thinking, but interesting stuff. All right, so that is the final AP poll. Let's talk about the final KenPom rankings, what they ended up to close out the season. So here it is. Duke did finish at number 1 with one of the highest net rankings we've ever seen. Yeah, 39 plus 39.29. That's unbelievable. That's like last year UConn that won the national championship was plus 36.43. So as you can see, Duke, Houston, and Florida all had a better ranking than UConn's team last year. That was an absolute juggernaut, went 37-3. Few notable things on here. Florida, as we mentioned, they did have the most wins out of anyone this season, 36-4. They were awesome and absolutely just like, people are going to say, yeah, they were the 4th overall seed. Maybe not the best team all season. This team was awesome. They were as good as anyone all season long. They finished 2nd in offense, 6th in defense. Auburn ended up 4th. Tennessee ended up 5th, Alabama 6th, Michigan State 7th. So this all kind of added up with the AP poll. And then Gonzaga was 8th, which was just so unfair to Houston to have to play them. Houston, if they would have won the national championship, would have went on like the most generational run ever, because they'd had to play the best seed that they could have faced every single round. They beat the 16 seed, beat the 8 seed, beat the 4 seed, beat the 2 seed, beat the 1 seed, then they would have had to beat another 1 seed. I don't know if that's ever happened or what, but Houston would have had a generational run, but it ends up being Florida. Texas Tech ends up at 9, Maryland at 10, Iowa State 11, Wisconsin at 12, Arizona at 13. St. John's way down at 14. St. John's was lower ranked pre-tournament at KenPom than most would have expected. They were 11th, I believe. Purdue was 15th, Kentucky 16th, Illinois 17th. Illinois, another one of those teams that actually didn't end up in the final AP poll. They did struggle, I guess, down the stretch in the Big Ten tournament and or in the Big Ten regular season. A&M finished at 18, Missouri at 19, and UCLA at 20. UCLA, another team that is going to have a bright season next year. They got some serious pieces coming in, most notably Donovan Dent. Talk about that in the next show. Now let's get into our awards, our All-Americans. It's the same as the All-Americans that came out. This is what I would have. Braden Smith, Walter Clayton Jr., Cooper Flagg, JT Toppin, Janai Broom. That's exactly what they had. I think it was fairly obvious. I really didn't even look hard at anyone else. Or you know what? Excuse me. Mark Sears was an All-American in here somewhere. Mark Sears took Braden Smith's place. I don't know. I love Mark Sears more than anyone, but to me, these were the 5 where I didn't even consider putting Mark Sears over Braden Smith, quite frankly, because Braden Smith was just, I get it. Mark Sears was on the better team. I don't know. Mark Sears shooting percentages were just a little bit down towards last year. If you throw him on here, I'm not going to hate it, but this was a pretty obvious 5 to me. Player of the year, no surprise, Cooper Flagg. He was awesome. He's going to get backlash. He was one of the players I watched in college basketball where I'm like, you cannot stop him no matter what. And his offense isn't the best part of his game. He's a tremendous defender. He's so long. He's just so smart out there. He looks like, that LeBron intelligence where LeBron just gets to the rim and he somehow maneuvers angles to where you can't block him. That's what I see with Cooper Flagg. He's going to be awesome in the NBA. Tremendous player. And then coach of the year, this one could be up for a little bit of debate, but I did have Kelvin Sampson. I switched it to Todd Golden. Those were the 2. I couldn't give it to Sampson when Golden won and ended up with the most wins in the season out of any team in the toughest conference we've ever seen. So I had to give it to Todd Golden. Tremendous job, up and coming coach, beat those Title IX investigations and went on to the national championship. How about that? Todd Golden, just he's an up and coming star. He's a analytically driven coach. He's going to be spectacular. I think Florida is going to be here to stay for a while. That is it. The final episode of the season, only about 20 minutes long. Starting next week, it will be the start of next season. We're going to talk transfer portal, coaching carousel. What else? We'll talk probably a little bit of freshmen, we'll probably talk. I'm not going to release freshman rankings. Quite frankly, I don't follow them as much as the transfer portal. I do follow, the big guys, the DeBansas, the Darren Petersons, who actually went to the same middle school that I did. Fun fact, Darren Peterson, tremendous player from here in Canton, Ohio. So we're going to, we'll talk about all of that, maybe the Boozer twins a little bit, but mostly relying on, we'll talk all coaching carousel, the big names to know, and then we'll talk the transfer portal, our transfer rankings. So be sure, once again, hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science. And I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone for listening this entire season. It grew, this channel and the Instagram and the TikTok grew more than I could have ever imagined this year. Had a ton of interaction on the Instagram. Even on here, I did not expect it to grow this fast. I mean, I haven't been doing this that long, and it is growing like crazy. So I'm really thankful for all of that. Thankful for all the listeners who are here, listening to every episode. Had someone comment on the last video. He's like, hey, I went to watch the Final Four video and I saw it got deleted. What happened? It's like, that's kind of cool that people are like looking out for it and, really kind of caring about what is being said. Couldn't be here unless it was for all of you guys. And obviously it's just one opinion, my opinion. I respect and listen to all the other opinions that go on. I enjoy more of the conversation type instead of, just me yapping about takes, even though some people like that. And I get it. I like to listen to other people's takes as well. So, yeah. Very appreciative. Thanks to everyone for being here all season long. We'll talk transfer portal next. Until then, take care.